Hey ceramic students, how's it going? Miss Singleton here to talk to you guys today about section 13 in your notes, which is all about kiln processes. So quick review, at this point we already have some basic info about kilns, and that is that we know it is a ceramic oven. It is an oven specifically meant for ceramics. We also have a little bit of insight into when we use the kiln throughout the ceramic process. So as you guys already know, when we build our projects, we first build it during the plastic or leather hard stages of clay. Once our projects become bone dry, we then fire it, which is our fancy word for baking in ceramics. We fire our project in the kiln for the first time. When it comes out, it is usually a bright white color and we call it bisque. Then we take our bisque project and we glaze it. Remember, glaze is a special term we use for ceramic paint. After we glaze it, we put it into the kiln for the second and final time, and when it comes out, then it is done, beautiful, perfect, and ready to take home. So when we talk about firing a project in ceramics, we use a special term. Instead of saying that we are going to fire a project to X amount of degrees Fahrenheit, we say we are going to fire a project to cone and then some sort of number after it. So we essentially use cones instead of degrees Fahrenheit or instead of degrees Celsius. We have our own special unit of measurement for ceramics temperatures. So when we talk about which cone you're going to fire a project to, it generally falls into one of three categories, and that is either high fire, mid fire, or low fire. Those three different categories designate the three different ranges of temperatures that you could fire a ceramic project to. So when you talk to ceramic artists, a lot of times they'll say that they do their work all in high fire, or it's all low fire work, or mid fire. What that does is it kind of gives you an idea of what type of work they do. Generally, each type of firing or each range of firing, whether it be high, mid, or low fire, works best with specific types of clay and specific types of glazes. Oftentimes, if you use a specific type of clay or glaze, in the incorrect firing range in the kiln, you can have a lot of issues. For example, if a specific glaze is meant to be used, let's say in a low fire temperature, in a low temperature relatively, if you put it into a high fire firing process where it gets way hotter than it should for that glaze, your glaze might do things like bubble and give a really rough, undesirable texture when it comes out. The color may be completely different than you had expected. And I know some of these surprises sound like they could be super cool, but believe me, they never come out as cool as you would hope. So that's why it's important to know which kind of firing process you should do for your specific clay and glaze. Now, in our class here at Valencia High School, we do all low fire, which is relatively low temperature. Now, when we say it's relatively low temperature, it really is relatively. For example, when you think of your ovens at home, they probably heat up to around 350 degrees, 450 degrees on average. Surely they can get hotter, but that's what you usually use them at, that kind of low temperature. However, our ceramic ovens or our kilns, they can vary. They can go as low as around 1,800-ish degrees to, honestly, even higher than this. Kilns, depending on the kind that you have, can go all the way up to cone 14. Which is about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy hot, right? But as I mentioned, we pretty much stick with low fire kiln processes in our classroom. And essentially how it works is after you build your project and we put it into the kiln for the first time, we first put it in at cone 04, right here. Cone 04, just to make it simpler, is about 1900 degrees, 1900 degrees. So then after it comes out, you then glaze it, and then after you glaze it, we put it back into the kiln. So after you glaze it, it goes into the kiln at cone 06 then, which is actually about 1800 degrees or 1800 degrees. So still very hot. Now when we talk about the cone numbers, they are rather confusing, but essentially how it works is picture there being a 0 right here. Everything above it goes up in order, and everything below it also goes up in number order, but there's a 0 in front of it. So as you go up from cone 0, theoretically, you're going up in temperature. But as you go down, the numbers will still rise, but there's a 0 above them, which explains why cone 06 is actually cooler than cone 04. So we're here now in our kiln room here at Valencia High School. In our kiln room, we have 2 awesome kilns, and they're pretty large too. If you were to purchase a kiln, you can find them as small as around this large, just for really small projects, or you can find them even larger than these, to be honest, but these are definitely considered a large kiln. So how it works is when you guys have projects that are ready to go into the kiln, I bring them all back here and then I put them inside of our kilns. We have different kiln shelves that all look kind of like this, and the idea is we lay them inside of our kilns, and once we load up a shelf, we put some posts like stands on top of it, so that way we can set another one higher up on top. So we can stack up several layers of projects, and that helps us use the entire height of the kiln pretty efficiently. So when we actually fire our projects, essentially how the process works is we put the projects in and then we turn the kiln on. So in a normal oven at home, you do it kind of different. You know, you preheat the oven and then you put your food in, but with our kilns, you first put the projects in and then you turn them on. From that point, the kiln starts slowly heating up to get to its desired temperature, cone 04 or cone 06 in our class. Once it hits that temperature, which usually takes somewhere between 8 to 12 hours, once it hits that temperature, it will instantly turn off and slowly start dropping down in temperature. Now it's really important that kilns don't cool down too quickly, or else you can get a lot of cracking and breaking and issues in your projects. So kilns do slow down relatively slowly. Generally, the cool down process takes somewhere between 10 to 15 hours total. So it does take a while. Overall, I would say that the entire firing process could take easily around 24 hours total. So now that we're in here, let's talk a little bit about kiln safety. So first and foremost, this kiln room is a teacher-only zone, so only teachers are allowed back here. If for whatever reason there's something you need to get from the kiln room, just ask your teacher, we'll go get it for you. Also, even though you should never be in here, if you do happen to ever be near a kiln in general, make sure to never touch it if there's heat coming out of it. So kilns are kind of tricky, right? They do hold in a lot of heat. However, they do get pretty hot themselves. So even if it's closed and it looks safe, it's very possible that all this metal area, all this metal stuff on the outside is going to be super hot. So don't touch a kiln that has heat coming out of it. Best case scenario, just never touch a kiln in general, and you should be good. So I think that's all we got for you guys today. That should be everything you ever need to know about kilns and more. Until next time, see you guys later. Take care. Bye.